Oh, nice. Okay, thank you.
Okay, just back and pop up this time.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Afternoon.
Afternoon. I let everybody in. Sorry, I'm starting a little bit late. I was trying to get the live stream thing set up so that we're following the rules we need to follow. Great. Looks like everybody should be on here, so I want to get started. Make sure that we respect everyone. I know people are really busy right now. So I did send out the agenda. Hopefully everyone got that, as well as an additional document about the policy group. So we'll go over that as well. Just want to make sure. Waiting room. All right, we may have to do things out of order. I'm not seeing Sergeant Regano. Right. but we will go around first and give introductions. I think we may have a few new faces from the group that we had in July. So let me see if we want to just start. Oops, sorry about that. All right. Done. Truce do with introductions, and we'll go around.
I'm Assistant State's Attorney Dawn Troost. I know some of you. And I've been in the office about 10 years. I was in the criminal division for quite some time, and then now I'm in civil division.
Okay. Victoria.
Hi there, I'm Victoria Gessinger. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at the Ecker Center for Behavioral Health.
Thank you. Yun.
Hi, I'm Assistant Public Defender Yun Yun. I've been with the Public Defender's Office 19 years.
Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Schofield. I'm from VNA Healthcare. I'm the AVP of Clinical Services, and I also oversee our privacy, corporate compliance, and risk management for our organization.
Awesome, thank you. Bernie.
I'm Bernie May. I'm the Executive Director with Family Service Association.
Thank you. Vern.
Vern Tepe, Kane County Board, western side of Elgin is my area.
Awesome. Michael.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Isaacson. I'm Assistant Director of Community Health at the Kane County Health Department.
Stacy.
Good afternoon. I'm Stacy Allen. I'm the Director of Business Development for Footprints to Recovery in Elgin.
Thank you. And Corey.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Corey Dixon. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Administration at the Kane County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you. And then I think people off camera. Let me see if I can find you all. We've got Cheryl.
Did you say Cheryl, Martha?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm Cheryl Strathman, and I am on the county board representing District 20, which is the near downtown area of Elgin. And I wasn't able to be here in July, but I'm certainly in support of this whole program.
Thank you. Christine.
Hi, my name is Christine Buchanan. I'm the program manager for behavioral health supported living services in the Elgin area with the Association for Individual Development. I hopped on this month because our VP and the other director, Kim Buckheister, couldn't be on. So I'm just here to take notes and pass any information back on to them. So.
Thanks, Christine. Katie.
Hi, Katie Anderson, treatment advocate team lead with Recovery Centers of America in St. Charles.
And Michelle.
Hi guys, Michelle Gomes, King County Board District 8, which is southeast side of Aurora and a little bit of Montgomery. I couldn't be more excited about this program. It's close to my home. My brother's a recovering drug addict, and I can't even tell you how amazing this program is. So I'm super excited to be involved and support it 1000%. Let's get to work, guys.
All right. And Stacy, did we get you already? Stacy Allen?
Yep, you got me. I went in the middle.
Okay, gotcha. I was trying to see who had their cameras off. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for taking the time out of your days to prioritize, which is really important. I'm very excited about it. I noticed that we are missing Sergeant. I will give a brief update on the Elgin rollout. Not much happening. Officially roll out October 1st. And we are still waiting for participants. Sergeant Regano has gone ahead and started doing some retraining with law enforcement because, as you all recall, this all depends on officer buy-in. So the officers that have the discretion to offer pre-arrest diversion to individuals. If they're not offering it, we don't get participants. So right now, we don't have any with Elgin, but they're working on that. I know is thinking about different options for how to kind of get more participants from the officers. I think he's a little bit surprised, as I was, that we've gone this long participants still, but we are hopeful that some retraining and some more encouragement will. So that's briefly about Elgin. And then I know Corey Dixon was going to give a little update on where we are with the sheriff's office to work with them. And I think we have maybe a brief update, Corey.
Okay, thank you, Martha. I don't have a whole lot to report out on my end. The deputies and the detectives are still getting it together. What we think how we're going to end up proceeding is adopting much of the Elgin's policy, EPD's policy. And so right now we're currently reviewing that. And so we'll be following up actually with you, Martha, once we have that nailed down here in the coming weeks.
Thank you. I did hear that I keep dropping off. I'm really sorry. Our Wi-Fi on this end of the building is so hopefully it's not too bad. Just try to bear with me. In terms of rollout with the sheriff's office, a couple of updates on our end. We did apply for and were finalists for the CLEP-D grant, which is the Law Enforcement Partnership state grant, and we'll be hearing on Thursday this week. Oh, there's Sergeant Regano. We'll be attending a hearing on Thursday this week to finalize that grant. That is why we're moving ahead with starting to look at our rollout with the sheriff's office. So like Corey said, we're in the early stages of that, looking at policies, and we'll be anticipating hopefully starting officially around December 1st with them. The grant does start November 1st. So we are working on hiring the 2 positions it gives us. So community engagement coordinator, as well as 1 full-time case manager would be available through that grant. So we're pretty excited about that. We have interviews lined up early November, November 3rd and 4th for those positions. And we've had applicants. So we're very excited about that. And I did notice that Sergeant Regano is on. Just jump back and let him give any updates he wants to add.
Yeah, Martha, real quick before you move on, those positions are currently posted and they're still open for people to apply. So still encourage people to go to the website to apply for those open positions, everyone on the call.
Yes, absolutely. Sergeant Regano, I gave a brief update on Elgin, but did you want to add from your angle?
Yeah, I guess I would say, as I would have anticipated, there's a little bit of a slow referral process. We've had actually 3 referred to us. We've had, to my knowledge, only a couple that really have snuck through that probably could have been referred to us. So I'm going to double down on training internally, and we're actually going to start looking at, in the future, if we continue to get what I guess would be, I don't want to say buy-in because there's a lot of officers that want to refer people, but if there's a lot of lack of officer referrals, we're going to start looking at creating certain offenses that might be deemed necessary to be screened with pre-arrest diversion prior to charging as a next possible step, because we want to make sure we're getting engagement. So it's predictable. It's the first couple of weeks of doing it that officers are like, hey, so how do I do this again? I'm getting them all laminated cards that could not be more, I'm not calling officers dummies, but it could not be more dummy proof. It's going to be step A, step B, step C. And the step C is just to call me. It's going to have the pre-arrest diversion phone number to call me to screen it. So it should be very, very straightforward. And I'm going to be hitting up all the roll calls to make sure officers know how to do it, retraining supervisors on how to do it and how to refer and when to refer. And so We should be good. I anticipated a pretty slow, I anticipated probably 5 referrals in the first month, just knowing my department and how it operates. And so far, like I said, we've had 3 who officers tried to refer, and in 2 of the cases, they misunderstood. They just referred somebody without even asking them. And in those 2 cases, those people did not want it. So we have another one that I think is going to accept here. So other than the unofficial ones we've run since we went live, so to speak, we're about on par with where I thought we would be. So as officers start to see it, just like when we implemented CCSU, we didn't get people referring to us at all, officer wise, until they started seeing some successes. And then they thought, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. So then the referrals start to kind of see an uptick. And eventually, like I said, with CCSU, we get 80 plus referrals a month now. So certainly that number will go up. But I have a kind of a contingency plan that to make certain, and I wouldn't do that just on my own. We would discuss it more, but to kind of make certain offenses required to go through pre-arrest diversion first before they get charged. So that's kind of where we're at.
Tony?
Yes.
Tony, where do you stand with buy-in and support from management?
Management is very bought in. So it's not, I would say, like I said, my estimation hasn't really changed. Management is bought in. I would say you have some sergeants who probably don't care that much, but I think that apathy in organizations is something you see everywhere to some degree. I think management as a whole is very bought in. And I think you have a lot of newer officers who are really excited at the idea of being able to refer. I think it's as standard in policing, you kind of have that middle group, that 7 to 15 year range where they kind of just are like, I don't get why we're doing this. And that's the group that I'm focusing on quite a bit now. Not a total aside, but I'm starting a leadership team here at Elgin PD, where we are going to be really heavily focusing on why we do what we do, and getting people to kind of rally around honing ourselves and our skill sets. And that is a big part of it too, is I'm targeting that group of officers from like 7 to 14, 15 years to get them on the kind of the right path. And so there's a lot of tie-in as far as getting the groups that maybe aren't so willing to engage, and that's a longer term process. But from the top and the bottom, a lot of buy-in. In the middle is where we're doing, kind of the extensive work to get further buy-in.
Tony?
Yeah.
One question, without divulging too much information, of course, the situation that we spoke about yesterday, did that end up falling under what we're doing here?
Oh, sorry, just ignore the ringing phone in the background. I don't know how to decline a phone from a landline here. So no, the case we're talking about. So as a matter of technicality, like I said, I wouldn't consider that violence. However, a charge of resisting generally would not fall under this. I have my own thoughts on that particular case, but yeah, I don't think that technically would have fallen under this. I think the best case scenario for that case you're talking about would be using officer discretion to just not charge it. But that's another for another day.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Sergeant Regano.
Sure.
So back to the CLEP D grant. We are operating under the assumption we'll be getting that. So like those applications are still open. If you know of anybody that you want to encourage to apply for those are out there. They are grant funded. So for now, that grant till the end of June. But then with the CLEP D grant, we're able to apply for 2 more consecutive years, report everything we're supposed to report, and we're doing the right things. In terms of the reporting, part of the grant does cover the cost of subcontracting with an individual who will be doing our data analysis for us on the system. It's going to make that a lot easier for us and also give us a lot more information to gauge how we're doing the system and where we might need to make improvements or change what we're doing. So that, as we gather it, will be made available to the public and made available to you all as well. Any ways that you want that information shared specifically, let me. We will be putting it on a tab on the state's attorney's website specifically for pre-arrest diversion. So that's where that will be for the public. Other grants that we're working on, the community project funding is still waiting for a Senate vote. We do, as long as the Senate passes it. So that'll be coming down the road at some. We also applied for the COSAP grant, which they delayed their decision date till possibly as late as the end of December. It was supposed to be October 1st originally. We're hoping that if we get both of those come through, that would allow us to expand pre-arrest diversion further within Kane County and continue our system, especially if there are other municipalities that are interested in joining us in that. So we're continuing discussions with them as well. One question I did want to ask this group about was regards to the Bureau of Justice Administration offers training and technical assistance grants for, and it was going to fund having the lead directors come out here for that training in July. But because the Bureau of Justice Assistance never allowed travel for their employees, ended up coming on their own funding to do that training. And the calendar reset for those training and technical assistance grants on September 1st. So we could apply for a grant. And I wanted some feedback from this group about whether, and it wouldn't have to be the lead directors. We could apply for to do a site visit to another location that's doing pre-arrest diversion. We could apply for training assistance from any other organization that's involved with diversion and offers training. It could be a virtual training, it could be an in-person. I just wanted to see if there was any interest in doing that, if you think there's value in applying for that sooner rather than later. You should wait and see how things are going. Just wanted some thoughts.
What's the grant period that it's good for, Martha?
I believe it's for.
Sorry, say that again. You cut out just as you said the date.
I think it's a 1-year cycle.
Okay.
But I don't think there are limits on the number of times you can apply, as long as it's for different purposes.
Okay. I mean, to me, sometimes training is more beneficial once something is up and running, because people then have a sense of some skeleton idea of how things are supposed to work, and then it helps fill in those gaps of knowledge. So I think it's a good idea, particularly when you're in the beginning strain of things, to get it up and going.
Okay. Anybody? Any ideas?
I selfishly would chime in that it might be more beneficial almost to do what you described, I think, as a site visit to a site that is successfully doing it, to go there instead of have them come to us per se. I don't know if that's even an option, but to be able to see it in operation might actually be more beneficial to, kind of working through some of the difficulties, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yep. So I did attend, I've attended 2 webinars now with the, I always forget what it's called, like Council of State Governments. They do some webinars with the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and they've had as guests different counties or municipalities that are doing diversion. And there are some out there that are doing amazing things. So I think that the one that I attended, they had Middlesex County in Massachusetts who are doing, they're kind of in a research phase right now, so they wouldn't be a great site to visit because they're not yet. But then there was Pima County, Arizona, that has, they've actually a facility that's a lot like a CSU that's kind of adjacent to their courts, so that folks that are justice involved could be admitted to a CSU, go to court. They can go easily Their funding model is also really interesting. They've got braided for the county, so the county health department collaborates with other agencies and Medicaid. So there are a couple sites out there that are doing interesting and different things that might be good places to learn from. Just a thought. Any questions about any of those grants? And feel free if you something that you think would be a good idea, let us know. I'm kind of out of applying for grants because they're not always fun, but happy to do it to support anytime.
Martha, I have a question. It's Michelle.
Yep.
When we're looking at targeting this, what Tony, the middle group for buy-in, should we be utilizing social media to some degree, because they clearly use social media to push out from the county or from Elgin these other agencies and how great things are going, or some data sources that can say this is awesome, we should be, some kind of marketing thing so that they can at least see it in their news feeds. And they don't read the paper, but something that we can get it in their brains. Listen, I've been spending a lot of time with these folks and I totally understand. I don't understand where they're coming from, but I hear it all the time and they don't understand why we're even going forward with these things. And it's like beating my head against the wall sometimes when I'm talking to them. So I don't know. Maybe the data needs to get to them in a different fashion. Any thoughts, Tony?
Yeah, I would say that wouldn't hurt. I will say in the region, I've gotten some positive responses from police departments, but by and large, what I see, and it's going to be, we knew this because Louisville had this problem when they attempted it, and a few other states had this problem when they attempted it, is that you need officer buy-in. And so it's, for example, I'll use St. Charles. I don't know what level their rank and file below administration feels about it, but their administration seems pretty positive about it. I've had DeKalb County and City of DeKalb and their state's attorney's office are all on board. They want to run with it, and it seems to be that admin, at these various different departments are on board, and it seems to be newly hired officers. So that middle group is exactly what we would have predicted would have been a tough sell. But a lot of the people in that middle group in most police departments are either in a special division or. But what I really want to get is I want to get buy-in from patrol. And so I think consistent messaging internally is my first step. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, because I do think, like even just for example, for that leadership team that I told you I was working on now, putting it out on LinkedIn, and I got all kinds of, feedback, and the chief even came and asked me, how come your posts got more responses than any posts we put up? And I said, I have no idea, other than I network outside of law enforcement. And I think it's helpful, to your point, that officers get to outside groups saying, wow, that's a really great idea. So I do think that part of messaging might hit some of those individuals, and even kind of taking that outside messaging and then bringing it internal and saying, here's what people have to say about pre-arrest diversion. I do think that would help. I don't know to what degree, but I do think it would help.
Thank you. I'm not sure exactly how to navigate that, but I was born and raised in law enforcement, so I 100% get it. And without that buy-in, this is kind of a moot point. It really, really is. So I think that's the super priority, and I don't know how to make them understand. Of course, they never listened to me for 20 years, so.
It's so I've actually had a couple different thoughts on that and different things in the works. And I'm actually going to be meeting with our detectives too, because a lot of times to have patrol on board is probably the most important part. And I think the second most important part is to have investigators on board, because if they have crimes they're investigating, that they can get off their plate by referring it to this instead of working the case further. That actually would be very beneficial to them and how they prioritize their work. And so that's kind of my next group I'm going to kind of try to bite off, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's consistent, strong messaging, and cops don't usually listen to anyone that's not the police. And so that's another big part of it too, is getting a groundswell of support internally. And that's why I knew it would start out slow. There was no doubt in my mind. So I don't want to say I'm like, it's no problem, no big deal. It's not that I don't see a problem. It's that I knew it would start out slow. And so, pushing forward is at a slower speed than is going to make most people comfortable. But getting a foothold, like I said, I went through it with CCSU. The first year, people were like, yeah, okay, call this guy out here. He's going to bring some ECHR intern and they're going to do police work. Sounds great. And then the very first time I got buy-in was when Day Shift called me out as a joke. They really thought it was kind of a joke. They called me out and I had an ECHR intern with me, and we went out there and we turned a standoff with the entire house surrounded and potentially calling SWAT to everyone can clear. And we handled it between me, the intern, and one other officer, and we sent everybody else away. And I think it was a lot of the higher ups had already arrived on scene, and this was turning into a big call that they started to go, maybe this is more than just a fluff thing that we're doing. And so sometimes it's going to be stuff like that the officers have to see for themselves. So that is a timely time. I think you know what I'm trying to say. That is a time-consuming thing to get that buy-in. And so that's always going on behind the scenes, but I am always open to suggestion on ways that we could get that accomplished, different ways and more ways. So.
And if I could add something to that.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tony, if I can add something to that. I think when you talk about the marketing piece of it and getting the word out, I think it also helps to get that word out to the public. So the issue but the subject that we brought up yesterday that you and I were discussing, much of the reason for the call was because that person had heard about CCSU and what should be happening, right? So it was almost like the public is also holding all of us accountable for the things that come down. And in the CLEP grant that the state's attorney's office and here at the sheriff's office that we managed to get, there are marketing dollars, right? So that officers can have the materials on them, so they have something to show, they have something to give to that person, so that they can know that it's a real deal, and they have something to reference at a later part. So I think it's a two-pronged approach. Right. So absolutely having a buy-in from the officers, but also to getting that word out to the public and making them aware of what services are available. And that just serves to help everybody in the long run.
Agreed.
Yep. And that's actually what I was going to say as well, Corey, that we do have some funds of this new grant that will be set aside for marketing purposes. So that'll be mostly to the public. To make people aware of pre-arrest diversion and how it works and what it is and why it's beneficial for them. So we will definitely be looking to you all for guidance as well at a later date. I do want to keep us moving along because this next year, the policy coordinating group operations and roles is something that I really want you guys to have the most say in. I know if you read through that document, model typically works is that there's a policy coordinating group first, actually the elected officials and the agency directors who come together and say we want to establish this model, and they have a project manager. So they're usually the operation. So we started a little bit differently. We can make this group to be what we want it to be. And I want you guys to have the say in that, because this is your time that you're dedicating to this project. So I want you guys to take this over and really feel like you own this, get a say in how this runs. And it's not me telling you how it goes. So that said, then determine that we need to follow the Open Meetings Act, which is why I'm here in the grand jury room streaming live for this meeting. So that is one thing that is stipulated for us. But in terms of, what you guys want this to look like, I'm open for ideas and suggestions and recommendations. If anybody has, if you read through that and you had thoughts about how you want this, I'm open to hearing from you all.
Martha, are you asking about our thoughts about Open Meeting Act?
No, about how you want this body to be run. Do you want to elect officers? Do you want to set terms for serving on this? Do you want to continue meeting quarterly? Want this to look? Because we do have to follow the Open Meeting Act. That's the only part that is non-negotiable right now. That was determined.
Martha, this is Katie Anderson. My question to you is, how has it been run in the past with like other organizations that do similar things to what we're doing now?
So that was in that document that was shared from the lead model. It's typically the policy coordinating group that starts this, and the policy coordinating group, you guys elect your officers within the board. You guys do the hiring, like you would have hired me if we had started out the way it typically starts, which is why kind of a different position. And you all would have been the ones to determine terms for people serving on the board, and all of those things would be set. It is, and I don't remember if it was in that portion of the document that I shared, but it is typically a body that meets quarterly and communicates via email in between, which is been doing. But I'm open to suggestions from you all.
Okay, I don't have that in front of me right now. I'm off a site. So I believe that, it's important for us to meet quarterly. I don't know if it would be of value to us to meet more often in the beginning as we're getting this up and running. But I don't know if it's necessary or not, or if it's something that, is done on the outside as far as training wise and getting the information out, and informing individuals about how to get involved in this program.
Anybody else?
This is Michelle. I also think meeting quarterly is good. I don't know, do we want a chair for this committee? Is that something that others want to do? Also, in addition to that suggestion, I think everybody should have each other's cell phone numbers so that we can communicate individually if we have ideas. I think that's something that I don't have right now, so I would love to have that information. I do not want to chair this, FYI.
Do you say you do?
I do not.
Oh, it kind of cut out. It sounded like I do.
Yeah, I know. It did not sound like that to me. No.
Okay.
Nice try, Martha.
It was worth a shot.
I think somebody else might, step up there and maybe we can have a chair to this committee. That'd be great.
So I think maybe we should develop a structure and then turn towards chairs. So it's helpful to me if you would have bylaws to a group and what exactly is our purpose and our structure. And then you can set forth how you want your governance to look within that group. Because I think it's easier to determine that and what you want your membership to look like when you have an exact outline of what it is that you're trying to accomplish within the group. So I think if we can set up that structure first, I think then the conversation maybe, or even maybe you want that even to be a subgroup of this group to work on some of those things in the meantime, to help build that structure in place, then kick it back to the larger group to vote on that. And then we can establish our rules and structure around a loose structure, if that makes sense. We'll create a loose structure and then build a better infrastructure from there.
That sounds like a good idea.
I would say my only other suggestion would be, you talked about term limits. I think it's good to get locked into stuff like that. I would say if you wanted to start off with 1 or 2 year term limits for that, only because it's going to be a lot of work in the beginning. Sometimes people get stuck in those positions. Sometimes there's not a lot of turnover, and you want to bring new people in and have some fresh stuff when it's stabilized. And I have seen in other organizations doing work like this that you tend to put a core group of people together, and they tend to run it as long as they can run it. And you know, when you hit a dead end or a brick end point where it's like, all right, do you really want to wait till you need to talk about some change and some turnover? And you know, even, you know, having different people from different sort of, you know, you have people like me who come from treatment and business development. You have people who come from county government. You have law enforcement. So I guess to make sure there's a balance of people on there, everybody comes with a different toolkit and a different, you know, set of skills. And I think the point of putting that leadership group together is to sort of leverage everybody's different skill set. You know, which is what we did in Lake County, where you had different, you know, different committees that made up the whole entity. And then off of those different committees, you plugged in people to be on a leadership standpoint. But I think if you get locked into having things being, you know, sort of forever or unended, then, you know, I think change is good in a board, any kind of leadership where, you know, new people come in and bring different stuff. And I think it's easy to get stuck and stagnant if you don't have some limits, and then you have new people come in and things, you know, the culture remains, but, you know, new stuff comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to second that comment, everything that was just said, and add that maybe having different committees where you always have these working groups, so to speak, always staying engaged is a really good idea. And then to have one of those working committees focus on recruitment, board recruitment, because if you're going to set a year or 2 year timeline for board residency on the board, then you always have to be in the mode of recruiting different and new people onto it. So that's my 2 cents.
Michelle, I just have to add something there. Stacy sparked my brain here. At some point, I think it would be great to include some pre-arrest diversion alumni so they can share their experience and successes at some point. I don't know if that's a great idea. I think it is, but.
Yep, I like that. All right, do we have a subgroup who would be starting to create a loose structure to bring back?
I'd be happy to work on that if you need me to. I've done it in the past.
Thank you, Stacy. Should have at least 3 people.
That shouldn't take long, so I'm with you, Stacy. I'll do it. I hope as well.
Thank you, Corey. One or 2 more. Anybody? We may also be missing this call, so if people need some time to think about it, I can send out an email follow up, see if anybody else is interested or ready to step up and join them working on that. One thing to note as well is that the community engagement coordinator we're looking to fill, that person will be more involved with the policy coordinating as well. So they'll be helping to put some of this together when they come up in November. All right. So be able to wrap up a little bit early. Does anybody have, I know we've had a lot of about policies back and forth, some votes on the participant flexible fund and the safety policy. I appreciate everyone's responses on those. We do have those in place for Elgin. I don't think we've had anything else to vote on recently, but we'll continue to communicate in between these quarterly meetings. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns before we adjourn? No,
No, but
everybody's happy.
Yeah, but feel free to share my cell phone number and my email with everyone, so we can, have that for each other. I mean,
Okay. Yep.
That'd be great.
I'll put something together. Appreciate it. Okay, I hope the connection wasn't too terribly choppy. I know this Wi-Fi down here is not great.
I think we're working on that for you, Martha.
It's a little like karma when you say your technology is terrible and then you
But feel free to
die.
contact me anytime in between these meetings. Stay connected. Okay. On that, everyone have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.